You've been lied to. The world isn't as fair as they told you. In fact, fairness is a luxury, a myth. The true game is power, is control. And if you don't understand it, you'll forever remain a pawn in someone else's play. Look around. Look at those who succeed, the ones who rise above. They don't play by the rules, they make the rules. They pull the strings. And the rest of us, we follow. It's that simple. But you're different. You're on the verge of something far greater. A truth so potent, it can change your reality. But you have to be willing to accept it. Oh, you want to be the one in charge? Or will you remain a follower, forever powerless? You're about to enter a world where manipulation and control are not just tools, they're weapons. But this is no ordinary world. This is the world of the elite, the strategists, the masters of influence. It's not a place for the weak-hearted. It's a realm of cold, calculated moves, where emotions are weapons and empathy is a weakness. And here's the catch. If you don't learn these truths, you'll never escape the chains others put on you. Think about that. You'll remain a follower, controlled, manipulated. The world will shape you. You won't shape the world. But here's your shot. You've been brought here for a reason. You've heard the whispers of power, the allure of control. What you're about to learn is dangerous. It's forbidden. But if you're brave enough, you will see the world for what it truly is. You'll know how to dominate, how to control, how to bend others to your will. Let's start with the first piece of the puzzle. It's deceptively simple, yet most people miss it. The first rule of control is perception. You must understand this. People don't see reality as it is. They see it as they want to see it. Their perception of you, of life, of themselves, it's all warped. And you must shape that perception. Mold it. Control it. The way others perceive you is the first step in your climb to power. Imagine a chessboard. The pieces aren't just mindless objects moving on their own. They're controlled by a master. Every move you make, every glance, every word is part of the larger strategy. Take a moment and think about someone who always seems to have people flocking to them, someone who appears untouchable. What's their secret? It's simple. They know how to craft a perception that draws others in, disarms them, and controls their thoughts. You don't need to have the best skills, the brightest ideas, or the most talent. You just need to know how to make others believe you have it. They don't need to know the truth. They just need to believe the illusion. And once that perception is set, they're yours to command. Think of the greatest manipulators in history. The ones who shaped nations, built empires, toppled rivals. They were masters of perception. They understood how to make people believe in their greatness, their power, and their vision. But there's more to this than just perception. There's also anticipation. You've heard it before. The best offense is a good defense. But that's only half of the truth. The real key to control is anticipation. Understanding what others will do before they even know themselves. When you anticipate their moves, you don't react. You control. In life, people follow predictable patterns. Their actions, their emotions, their decisions, they're all rooted in deep psychological triggers. If you know what buttons to press, you can make anyone do anything. But the trick is to anticipate those triggers before they even realize they're being played. Let's take a moment to think about someone you admire. Someone with incredible influence. They always seem to know what's coming. They're always one step ahead. They never seem surprised. Why? Because they've mastered the art of anticipation. They understand the flow of human nature. They know what people want before those people even realize it themselves. This is where you begin to see it. The true power is not in responding to the world, it's in creating the world. Creating the events, the movements, the interactions. You become the one who sets the stage, while everyone else acts their parts. You are the puppet master. But you can't control everything. Not yet. To truly master control, you need to learn the darkest truth of all. The ability to manipulate emotion. Emotion is the key to domination. It's the one thing that drives human behavior more than any logic, any reason, any facts. People are emotional creatures. They act on impulse. They make decisions in moments of anger, joy, fear, and desire. And if you know how to trigger those emotions, you become unstoppable. Have you ever seen someone lose control because of their emotions? It's like watching a puppet cut free from its strings, flailing around with no direction. Emotions are chaos, but they're also your greatest weapon. You just need to know how to pull the right strings. Imagine you're a leader. Your followers trust you, but they also fear you. They listen when you speak because they know that a single word can push them toward glory or destruction. You've learned to control their emotions. You've learned to manipulate their deepest fears, their desires, their hopes. And as you sit back, watching them fall into line, you understand something profound. You've become more than just a leader. You've become a master. But this is only the beginning. The deeper you go into this dark art, the more you'll see the layers unfold. The more you'll realize that every move, every moment, is part of the grand strategy. So what happens when you start controlling perception, anticipating emotions, and mastering influence? You become a force. And this is where we leave you, standing at the edge of your power. The next step is far more dangerous. But if you want true control, true dominance, it's the only way forward. The game is about to change. Are you ready? Now that you've seen the surface, you're probably feeling something stirring inside you. The first taste of true power. It's intoxicating, isn't it? It's like you've unlocked a door, but behind it, there's an entire world you've never dared to explore. But there's one question you must ask yourself. Do you have the courage to go deeper? Because in this game, there is no turning back. Once you master the elements of control, you'll start seeing the world differently. You'll understand the lies people tell themselves, the traps they fall into, and the subtle ways they can be bent to your will. The next piece of the puzzle is one you can't afford to ignore. The power of desperation. You see, desperation is a currency. It's a weapon. It's the one thing that breaks people. When someone is desperate, truly desperate, they will do anything to get what they need. Their walls come down. Their guard slips. And in that moment, they're no longer in control of their actions. You are. Consider this. Think of a person who's backed into a corner. Maybe it's a rival, a business partner, or even someone close to you. When their back is against the wall, their emotions start to cloud their judgment. They'll make mistakes. They'll act rashly. They'll give you the upper hand. This is where you start playing with their vulnerability. Their weakness becomes your strength. When you understand the power of desperation, you start seeing everyone differently. That person who seems unbreakable, they have a breaking point. That business competitor who looks like they have it all figured out, they have a fear, a weakness that you can exploit. They might hide it well, but it's there, lurking beneath the surface. Now, imagine being able to tap into that fear, to make them feel like they have no other choice but to follow your lead. You don't have to break them physically. You don't need to use force. You just need to use their emotions. And in their desperation, you'll find your power. Think of historical figures who knew how to manipulate desperation. Leaders who didn't just crush their enemies with strength, but took advantage of their need for survival. These figures didn't need to fight the hardest battle. They made their enemies fight themselves. They exploited weakness, used fear, and played off the desperate desire to avoid defeat. But there's something even more sinister at play. As you gain control over desperation, you begin to see the next level of manipulation. The art of reciprocity. This is the subtle, unspoken game that's being played every day. You've probably heard the phrase, "You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours." But this goes much deeper than favors. Reciprocity is an unconscious obligation that people feel when they receive something, even if it's small, even if it's a token gesture. The human mind cannot ignore this sense of indebtedness. It's a mental trap, a debt that must be repaid. But here's the kicker, you don't need to give them anything of real value. Think about it. You can give someone a small gesture of kindness, a compliment, a favor, and they'll feel obligated to return it. They'll believe they owe you. It could be a simple, "I'll get that for you," or "Let me help you with that." It doesn't matter how small. What matters is how the mind works. Reciprocity happens whether we're aware of it or not. And once that sense of debt is triggered, the person feels a need to reciprocate whether they want to or not. Now, imagine wielding this in a strategic way. You can get people to give you things, do things, help you, all because they feel like they owe you, and they don't even know why they're doing it. It's not just manipulation. It's mastery of the human psyche. Let's dive deeper into history for a second. Think about the world's most successful manipulators, the ones who built vast empires or toppled the strongest of rivals. These figures were masters of reciprocity. They knew that a seemingly small favor could make their enemies, or even their allies, bend to their will. And in doing so, they created networks of influence, relationships where everyone was bound by a mental debt. But this doesn't just apply to enemies or allies. You can use this against anyone, even those closest to you. Let me show you the depth of this power. Think of a time when someone did something small for you. Maybe they bought you a coffee or gave you a compliment. Did you feel a slight sense of obligation toward them? Did it make you want to return the favor? Most people do, whether they admit it or not. Now, imagine using this on a larger scale. Imagine giving someone a series of small favors over time, making them feel indebted to you. They will begin to trust you, rely on you. They'll believe you're their ally, and without even realizing it, they'll start working in your favor. They'll want to reciprocate, and soon you will control them without them ever knowing how it happened. And here's the thing, you don't need to be a villain to use this. You don't need to be manipulative in the traditional sense. You just need to understand the game. You need to understand how people think, how they feel, and how they can be guided by their emotions. The power of reciprocity will lead you into deeper levels of control than you ever imagined. So far, you've learned how to exploit desperation and how to use reciprocity to bind others to you. But there's one more element you must understand. One final piece to complete your arsenal. But that, my friend, is for a deeper darkness. A realm where the line between ally and enemy blurs. The next move you make will define you. Will you be a master of the game, or will you be its prey? Only one way to find out. You want to know what comes next. You've crossed a threshold now. You can feel it. The darkness inside you, the power that's been unlocked. You're no longer looking at the world through naive eyes. You're seeing it for what it truly is, a chessboard. And on that board, the pieces can be moved. You can manipulate them. You can control them. You are no longer the one being played. You're the one doing the playing. But let's take a moment. The path you're on is dangerous. It's seductive. Once you've tasted power, once you've felt what it's like to control another person's mind, it's hard to go back. And that's what you have to understand. Once you master manipulation, once you know how to control people, you become something else. You become the strategist. And in that transformation, your world changes. There's a shift that happens. First, you're cautious, calculating. You're testing the waters, dipping your toes in the pool of power. But then, something shifts inside you. You begin to trust yourself. You start to realize that every conversation, every interaction, every glance is an opportunity to control. You understand that there are no innocent moves. Everything is a strategy, and you're playing the game better than anyone else. This is where many fail. They get drunk on the power and they lose their way. They forget the most important rule. Never let them know you're in control. Think about it for a moment. The greatest manipulators in history didn't walk around with their power on display. They didn't flaunt it. They didn't need to. They understood the true art of subtlety. The best way to control others is to make them think they're in control. That's the highest form of manipulation. You want an example? Think of a leader who commands respect without ever raising their voice. Someone who makes others believe they are the ones making the decisions, the ones in charge. You know the type. They have this quiet confidence. They don't rush. They don't show urgency. They sit back, observe, and let others do the heavy lifting. And yet, in the end, they're the ones who control the direction of everything. That's where you need to be. You need to learn to let others think they are leading the charge. You let them think they have the power, but all the while you are the one pulling the strings. You set the stage and they perform on it. You lead them into your traps, into your vision, all while they remain blissfully unaware of the manipulation. Now we're getting deeper. You've mastered perception. You know how to manipulate desperation and use reciprocity to bind others to you. But the next piece? This one will transform you into a true force. The next phase is using fear as a weapon. Fear is the ultimate tool of control. Think about it. What does a person fear more than anything else? The unknown, the loss of control, the idea that their world might fall apart. People live their lives avoiding fear, hiding from it. But when you harness fear, you hold the ultimate power. It's not about creating fear directly. It's about controlling it. You don't need to scare someone with overt threats. You simply need to plant the seed of fear. You make them question everything they believe. You make them question their decisions. Imagine you're in a negotiation. You don't need to threaten the other party with violence. You don't need to raise your voice. All you need to do is hint at a possibility. Plant an idea in their head. Maybe it's about the risks of failure or the consequences of going against you. You see, once you introduce fear, you gain control over their every move. The person will start to second-guess themselves, wondering if they're making the right decision. They'll start thinking they have no choice but to follow you. And the best part? They won't even know why. This is the power of fear. It works on an unconscious level. You don't have to beat them into submission. You just have to make them afraid of losing everything they have. Once they start questioning their reality, they'll do whatever it takes to avoid that fear. And that's where you can push them. The greatest manipulators in history have understood this. Fear is a tool they've used to bring nations to their knees, to make enemies bow before them. You too can wield fear not with threats or violence, but with a single idea. And here's the transformation. Once you master fear, you no longer need to control people with force. You control them with their own minds. Think about the difference that makes. It's subtle, it's powerful, and it's permanent. But there's one final piece to this puzzle, one last transformation before you ascend to the highest level of mastery. This final piece isn't about manipulating others anymore. It's about controlling yourself. When you control your own mind, when you master your own thoughts, you become unstoppable. You no longer act on impulse or emotion. You become a cold, calculating strategist. You see the world through the lens of power, not weakness. You don't react. You don't panic. You observe. You calculate. You make your move with precision. The greatest manipulators, the ones who have left a mark on history, didn't simply master others, they mastered themselves first. They knew their strengths, their weaknesses, their emotions, their triggers. They knew how to keep their calm in the storm, how to stay focused on the end goal, no matter what chaos unfolded around them. And once you have this level of self-control, there's no limit to what you can achieve. You won't be swayed by others. You won't be shaken by emotions. You'll move with purpose, with power. The world will bend to your will because you've learned to bend yourself first. You've transformed from a prey, a follower, to a predator, a strategist. You are no longer the one being manipulated. You are the one who manipulates. And that's where your true power lies. The game has changed, and now you control the board. Now you stand at the peak, looking down at the world you've just conquered. Everything you've learned, everything you've done, it's all led to this moment. You are no longer the person you once were. You've shed the old skin, left behind the naive, reactive individual, and in your place stands someone far more powerful, a master of the game. But let's stop for a moment. As you stand here, looking down at what you've achieved, I need to ask you something important. What happens next? See, power is a slippery thing. It's not something you can hold onto forever without understanding the consequences. You've learned to manipulate, to control, to wield fear like a weapon. You've understood the minds of others, seen the hidden strings that bind them. But the real question now is, how will you use this power? And this, my friend, is where many fail. They get drunk on their success. They think they've mastered everything, that they've reached the peak. But here's the thing no one tells you. The greatest threat to power is complacency. The moment you stop moving, the moment you stop evolving, someone else will step in and take your place. The game is never static. It never stays the same. The world doesn't wait for you to rest. And neither does your ambition. You're standing on the edge of mastery, but what you do next will define you. You could choose to use these techniques for personal gain, to dominate every interaction, every relationship. You could tear down your rivals, manipulate your friends, control your family, and build an empire on the backs of others. But here's a truth that might be uncomfortable. That is the path of destruction. The world doesn't respect those who wield power recklessly. True power, the kind that lasts, comes from understanding the game and using it to build, not to destroy. And in that, you find the final key, the balance between manipulation and strategic compassion. Do you understand? You don't need to break everyone to rise. You don't need to crush everyone beneath your heel to prove your strength. The highest form of mastery is the ability to control not just others, but yourself, and to use your influence for something greater. This doesn't mean abandoning the skills you've learned. You are still a predator. But now you are a predator with purpose, with strategy. You don't use your power out of malice or ego. You use it to guide, to lead, to reshape the world according to your vision. And when you reach this level of mastery, when you understand how to use power not for self-indulgence, but for long-term vision, that's when you have unlocked the ultimate form of control. You move like a shadow through the world, unstoppable, unshaken, and capable of shaping reality itself. But as you walk away from this, as you begin to implement these strategies, remember this: your true power will come from your ability to keep evolving. You can't stop here. The path you're on requires constant adaptation, constant learning, and constant sharpening of your mind. You've seen the surface, but the depths of this game go far deeper. So what's next for you? Will you hold on to this power for your own satisfaction? Or will you rise higher, using it to shape the world, to bend it to your will, to create something greater than yourself? That's the real question. And in answering it, you will find your destiny. But before you go, let me leave you with one final thought. The world is full of people who are too blind to see the game. They don't understand how easily they're being manipulated, how easily they can be controlled. You, however, are no longer one of them. You've learned the rules. You know the tricks. You have the power. But remember this: the highest form of power is never to be seen. It's the silent force that shapes everything without anyone knowing how it's done. And that is the ultimate mastery. That if you're ready to take the next step, if you're ready to go further than anyone else, to wield power like no one else, then the world is yours for the taking. But be warned, power doesn't wait for the weak. If you want to succeed, if you want to dominate, it's not just about learning the rules. It's about living them, day in and day out, never stopping, never relaxing, always moving forward. Now, the game is in your hands. Will you play it? If you're ready, if you understand the path you must walk, then make your move. And remember, the best players make it look effortless. If you feel the hunger, if you feel the fire, don't stop here. Dive deeper, subscribe, and come back to continue your journey. There's always more to learn, more to master, more to become. The game is waiting for you, and you are now its master.